Imagine if 1% of the capital on an annualized basis from everyone's 401ks is going into Bitcoin.
Hey everyone, welcome to our latest Traded Black podcast. Thanks for checking in. I'm your host, Shad Dales, as usual. Lots going on in the cannabis space. Yes, anemic levels right now. Trading has definitely subsided from the rally back in September, but lots of news going on. Ohio vote coming up. November is going to be a big month for the state of Florida. Terracin raises full-on guidance. And then we also want to talk about how the FDA is warning about ketamine. So what does that all mean? Let's welcome in the gents, lead financial writer of TDR, Benjamin A. Smith. Good to see you.
Good to see you guys. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Anthony Vera, hope you had a good weekend. Good to see you, sir.
It was good. It was good to see you guys last week in Toronto. I got that cold weather actually followed me down here. It's a nice 65 degrees in Florida. It's a cold front.
Sounds
coming
nice.
through. Yeah, it's nice. Golf weather.
Is it sunny?
It is sunny, yeah. It's perfect golf weather.
65 degrees is wonderful weather for golf.
I like 50, but I'll take 65 any day.
You
I
like
can
50?
get it. I do. For me, if I can throw a hoodie on and just be comfortable, I'm completely content.
You play golf, Ben?
I do. I didn't play this summer. Last couple of years, I've only played like one round, but that's okay. I chop wood quite often, so can't get rid of that baseball swing from when I was a kid.
You wear two pants just in case you get a hole in one? That's a terrible joke. Terrible joke.
That was a landmine.
We'll segue off into the next segment of the show. All right, let's focus on, we start with cannabis and the state of Ohio. Before we begin, all views of the Traded Black podcast and the guests on this podcast are purely opinion. You should not treat any opinions expressed by us or guests as investment advice. And the views on this podcast are solely intended to be informational and are not investment advice. Okay, Ohio. Voting has commenced. So right now, early in-person voting began on October 11th with Election Day coming on next month, November the 2nd. So Anthony, begin with you. If cannabis is approved for adult use, what kind of market size are we looking at here within the state of Ohio from a recreational standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, from an adult use perspective, incrementally, if you want to back out what they're forecasting for taxes, you're looking somewhere between a $1 to $1.5 billion boost in sales with adult use coming online in Ohio. This is what the people of Ohio wanted. It was a very popular topic within the people of Ohio to get adult use on the initiative, to get the adult use ballot, the adult use initiative on the ballot. However, in the coming weeks, this is something that's come under fire from the GOP contingent in the Ohio State Senate. The actual president of the Ohio State Senate came out and said, if issue 2 passes, teenage suicides are going to go through the roof. That's literally all he said. He didn't base it on fact. He didn't really have too much of an educated statement. He just came out and said that as per like an if then statement, which I don't think it's in the best interest of the people of Ohio. I mean, if they want adult use cannabis and they want to vote on adult use cannabis, they should be allowed to unobstructedly vote on what they want in their state.
Tell me you're a boomer without telling me you're a boomer, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I mean, I'm used to the kind of blanket fear rhetoric that the anti-cannabis lobby usually likes to use. And I mean, this is a good example of it. I do think that there needs to be honest conversations around cannabis use, and around how the sector should look.
Yep.
But I think it needs to come from a place of respect for both sides and leveraging data and actual facts versus just making these blanket statements.
Yeah. This, if it were to go through, Ben, 24th state to legalize adult use cannabis, which just continues to push the approval rating and the narrative for this overall space. Ohio State University was actually saying that it estimates that the state of Ohio could see between $257 and $400 million annually in tax revenue. So curious to see how this will unfold, but needless to say, if it's up to the people, they've spoken, right?
Yeah, I believe it's expected to have a solid majority to vote for the initiative. I believe it's over 60%. Those are the last poll numbers.
Is it over
that
60?
I'm
Wow.
seeing.
Yeah.
Low to mid 60s. So it should pass fairly comfortably. So I think the only obstacle to this whole situation is, idiot politicians who think that it actually increases the suicide rate and things like that without even looking at causation causality and things like that, right? Even if that stat is true, which I kind of doubt that. So, yeah, you get the dinosaurs out of the way, and it goes to the people. I think it is a good chance of going through.
So
Curious to see.
Sabbath actually put out a graph this morning that a it was some kind of like cannabis disorder or cannabis use disorder
Yep.
is up in kids aged 12 to 18. It's up 150% um, since cannabis has started to get legalized at the adult use level, but it doesn't give any data as per what the baseline is. So you don't know if it was two people before adult use started or if it was 10,000 people before adult use started, seeing 150% uptick in that. And I actually tweeted at him to see like what the baseline is, like where is this? And it's just a very opaque graph with kind of like fear data out there as well.
Now, a
It
couple
clearly
things on that too. First of all, we've already have several rec states who put data on this, including mature states like Colorado, and most of them that I'm aware of show that teenage use actually goes down
Yeah.
when you legalize. So I don't know where he's getting that data from. Second of all, and I've written about this, I've tweeted about this, is that the incidence of cannabis use disorder, and I do think it's an actual real thing. It is like with any substance, it would be a real thing, but it's actually lower, material lower than alcohol use disorder. So when you bring this up, you got to bring up in relation to alcohol. Like if you're going to bring this as a legal substance that gives a lot of joy, it gives it serves a lot of medical issues for people. You got to
Yep.
put that in the context of alcohol, right? So if alcohol is legal, and this and cannabis has a lower incidence of use of disorder, then how does that fit into that sort of paradigm?
Yeah.
And
I
I
mean, I
don't see
think
people
about
talking.
it. I think about it like this: when we were 16, like one of my buddies, Brent, had a full beard and looked like he was an adult. And we used to go to the gas station, and two out of every four gas stations would probably sell us beer. There is nowhere in America where a child is going to walk into a cannabis dispensary
Yep.
and buy product.
Yep.
It's just not going to happen.
No.
Like the barriers to entry and the security around the space, like you're not going to see an uptick. If you're seeing an uptick, it's because of the black market. It's not because of the adult use regulated market
Well, look at
that's
us
going
last
on.
week when we were at the cookies dispensary in
Yeah.
Toronto, Canada. Like we all had to show our ID, and
Yeah.
I just turned 19. Wink, wink. But yeah, there is heavy, secure. Like there's protocols. People
Yeah.
walking in, see, like, what's your ID? Can we take pictures of product? All this sort of stuff where, it's tightly run, and they're not obviously going to be taking any chances, especially with the brand new industry, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's much more stringent than the alcohol industry where you can
Yeah,
just walk into Publix or a gas station and buy beer.
yeah.
Is that fear of the gas station is that holding up the Circle K being able to purchase cannabis at Circle K in Florida? Because I know that it was delayed,
I
was it
don't
not?
I mean, people speculate on this stuff. I don't think you're gonna be able to buy cannabis at a convenience store or at a gas
I don't
station
either.
for a very, very long time. Cannabis is gonna be siloed into dispensaries or pharmacies, like in Georgia, for a very long time. It's not gonna be behind the counter at a gas station
Which
anytime soon.
makes sense.
Yeah,
You don't want, like, I don't see gas stations, with all the
no.
precautions, and I say this again and again with the old generation. Can you imagine if weed was actually legalized back in the 1930s and we brought alcohol onto the scene? People like drinking and
I mean,
driving, fights,
yeah.
killings, domestic abuse, all this stuff would be at the forefront.
It's like this, you can't buy hard liquor at a gas station, at least in the States. Um, cannabis is not gonna find its way to a gas station or a C store, I think, anytime soon.
Hmm. Is Fireball considered hard liquor?
Yes, of course it is. It's like 20%, 25% alcohol.
You can't buy that at a convenience store or a gas station, you're
Gas
saying?
station, no.
Convenience store, you can.
Uh,
Yes.
you talking about like a Walgreens or a CVS? Then yes. But they're Walgreens and CVSs that have liquor stores next to them. You don't just walk in and they have liquor, for sale.
Well, off the A1A in Fort Lauderdale during Tortuga, there was a place. I think every other person was walking out with Fireball at this independent convenience store.
Yeah, I have a little bit of a higher IQ. I don't drink Fireball, but yeah,
I think a lot of young people don't even find this suicide comment even, like, it's not even a concern to them. it just goes to show how much a lot of these politicians are out of touch with everyday people, especially boomers, because I don't
Very
think
much
they
so.
realize how the digital ecosystem works, the amount of information that they have access to and information that they can read. But, we'll save that for another
Politicians,
day. Yeah.
politicians being able to read.
Uh,
It's
let's look at the sector as a whole and the volume that's being traded. We've approached anemic levels. Some of the numbers include, MSOs was up 5 million yesterday, which at the time of this recording, what yesterday would have been Monday, October the 16th. But when we look at some of the other players, GTI, 120,000 shares, Trulieve, 125, Jushi, 70, up until 355 yesterday, big block. Glasshouse 50 and Merrimed 50. So pretty quiet to say the least right now, as the market, I think, is waiting for that next catalyst announcement. So, Ben, what do you think is that next catalyst announcement?
Well, I think in the immediate future, we're looking at who is the next Speaker of the House. Do I think we're going to get a huge run like we did at the end of August for rescheduling? Absolutely not. Obviously, that wouldn't happen. But can you get a decent pop or actually a decline depending on who's the Speaker? Maybe. I mean, you might get 10% or so off that. So I don't even know if you call that tradable. But right now, the market's clearly trying to find a bottom. The froth from that rally is obviously dissipated for the last couple of weeks, so we're just sort of grinding down and trying to find a new range. And that's with that, usually volumes decline. And the good news is that MSOs is trading 5 million shares yesterday, and it's 3 million shares today. So it's decent. It's more than it has been. I mean, MSOs was trading. There were several sub 1 million share days before that rescheduling announcement. So volumes come off, but let's see what happens with the speaker, and then going in earnings in early November, and possibly the Florida Supreme Court decision
Yeah.
on the ballot in 2024. That could create a tradable rally situation.
Yeah. So let's touch on that news out of Washington, where Jim Jordan has been nominated for Speaker of the House, the latest twist in a chaotic battle, to say the least. Um, Jordan, who's the chairman at the Judiciary Committee, received 124 votes, so still 90 votes still needed. So just to confirm, make sure this is not an appointment, this is a nomination. So what's the required steps next, Ben? Does he even have a chance of becoming Speaker of the House?
Well, it didn't look so. It didn't look like it last week because even though Jordan was nominated by the Republican House Caucus, he was still many votes away unofficially. So if it got brought to a full floor vote where he needs 217 votes, it didn't look like it would pass. Now, word is that he's sort of chiseling away at different groups, and more people are starting to support him over time.
Yeah.
The latest that we retweeted out this morning, actually from a source that follows us closely, is that he's about 20 votes away, or there's 20
20
hard
now.
dissenters.
Oh,
So he needs to if he can just bring that to about maybe six or whatever that slim majority is, 5 or 6, then he
Is
could have a
8.
shot. But it was a lot worse than that last week. So he is galvanizing some support. Does he make it all the way? I'm not sure, but it's getting closer for Jordan.
hmm. Anthony, any feedback? I think before you're thinking there's no snowball's chance of him actually becoming
I
Speaker of
I
the House,
still
but
don't I still don't think that he has a chance. I mean, I think you could have a moderate Democrat or a centrist Democrat maybe come in, but I mean, something needs to happen. We need a speaker in the House, and it's not because Israel and Ukraine need a new aid package. I mean, we need to restore balance to the government and get things back on track and moving forward. I don't
yeah.
know if Jim Jordan's the best guy to do that. I mean, just calling him an agent of chaos is, I don't know if I want that guy at the helm. But I think we're fine, to be honest, with or without him.
We'll be
Chaos, to
fine
say the
because
least.
your rescheduling is the bigger thing, a much bigger thing than safe.
Yeah.
But is Jim Jordan good for safe banking based on his track record? No.
No.
Is the industry going to be fine? Yes.
Yeah.
Good old safe.
Eye on the
10-year
prize.
marriage.
I'm over safe.
Just a toxic marriage, isn't it?
I'm so tired of talking about this.
Yeah.
I know you are too, Anthony.
Yeah.
Honestly fucking sick of it. To be
I'm
Yeah,
honest.
over safe.
right.
HHS, the rescheduling is the holy grail here.
That's what I say too. All right, Actually, good little announcement last Friday before Investor Day. Very strategic that Jason Weld and his team did this, but they raised guidance for the remainder of the year. Exciting to say. We attended this Investor Day at the TSX last week, Anthony. Came away with pretty impressive with the team that they actually have in place. But look, they're going deep in the states that they're working in. They're not spreading it wide, which I think a lot of companies, needs to say, it did in the early days. But first ones to clean up their debt. They cleaned up their debt. Cash flow positive, going to be perhaps coming up their latest earnings. Listing on the TSX. This company seems to be right now, Ben, that they're maybe two steps ahead of a lot of the companies that are out there in the space right now. But a job well done when you look at some of the numbers that they outline based on their guidance.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was very material, mainly because they're actually raising guidance, and most of the industry, as we've seen traditionally, basically comes in line. And sometimes you see a miss on full year revenue guidance, or that gets downgraded. But
Yeah.
Terrason actually beat, and that is in itself makes them an outlier in the industry. So they go from 317 full year in top line revenue from 305, and then adjusted EBITDA goes to 63 million from 58 million. And to put that in context, Cresco Labs, um, they went down sequentially in adjusted EBITDA by 20%, and full year revenues went down on their last earnings report 9%. So while
Oh,
Terrason's
wow.
going up 28%, Cresco Labs gone down 9%. So obviously they're
There's your
different
soundbite
markets.
right there. There's your soundbite right there.
Well, that's what happens when you focus on wholesale over retail. I
Yeah.
mean, Cresco prides himself on a heavy wholesale footprint in a lot of these markets, and I mean that's where you're going to get your lunch eaten as far as price compression goes,
Why is that?
and
Explain that a little
margin
bit
compression.
more.
Why?
Explain,
Because
guys.
you why? Because the price at wholesale is more elastic than the price at retail, or inelastic than the price at retail.
How does, like, if someone doesn't really understand the whole wholesale market landscape right now, how would you guys best describe it?
In term in terms of if someone doesn't understand wholesale versus retail.
As far as the
So
industry,
if you're a vertically integrated operator, you're harnessing the entire value chain. So you're not caught selling yourself at wholesale prices, which is cheaper than what you're selling at retail, and then you're getting a beefier margin that's in there. So if I'm a wholesaler, I'm kind of at the mercy of the market, especially in markets like Michigan, and markets that have unlimited licenses. If the prices drop, you can't expand your margin at the point of retail, where you're selling it to the consumer. You're at the mercy of whoever's buying it from you and then retailing it. So you're basically exposed to price compression. You can't really re-rate your prices, to combat that.
yeah, hence the reason why retail is the place to be at right now. Some of the stats that we had last week, Michigan, they kept emphasizing Terracin on the excitement of Michigan. Unlimited state licenses within the state, a $2.9 billion juggernaut, second to only California. And one thing that actually was surprised that they outlined, Anthony, is that Michigan is the largest cannabis state per capita in the country when it comes to revenue that's being generated.
Yeah, I mean Michigan's a crown jewel. I mean, there's not a lot of publicly traded companies that are in that space. The only two that I could name off the top of my head are TerraSend, via their Gauge and Cookies footprint, and then you've got SNDL that just picked up Skymint in receivership. I don't think anybody else from a public standpoint is in that market. With that being said, I mean Jason and Ziad had very good things to say about Michigan. They had very good things to say about the regulators that have been put in place, as of recent, and they're cleaning up that market, which is the
Yeah,
reason why it's throwing off around 270 million in revenue a month, which is crazy.
yeah.
To think about how good that market actually is, and it's rebounding to the upside in
I
terms
think
of pricing and stability.
Yeah, they were saying it's becoming more predictable and can now provide financial guidance, which is why they sent out that, press release last week. I look at New Jersey, they're number 2 in market share, number 1 in each flower, vape, and extracts. If the bill is passed in New Jersey, they would look to own 35% of that market, 7 potential new states. A lot of learning for the company starts and ends within the state of New Jersey, is what they indicated. But all in all, uh, they've got some strong footprints in the states that they're operating in right now.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah,
it's a testament to the management team and their strategy. They're kicking ass in every market that they're in. Maryland, Jersey, Pennsylvania's a beast just waiting, and Michigan's doing well, and it's coming back. I mean, it was great. We got to sit down with the president of the Northeast, the president of Michigan, Ziad, Jason. It was a very good experience and hands-on to see the culture that they're building and the
Yeah,
human capital that they have installed across the business.
I thought so too. And bringing
Yeah.
in Tim Seymour to moderate that event, that was great.
Yeah.
Okay, let's switch now to psychedelics. Interesting, or I should say, announcement by the FDA, where they recently warned patients and healthcare providers about potential risks associated with compounded ketamine products, including oral formulations for the treatment of psychiatric disorders. Hello, it's about time that this was announced. Uh, why do you think the FDA finally had enough and basically came out and issued this, Ben?
Well, there was an incidents report in April 2023, and that's what caught the FDA's attention. So they subsequently issued a warning letter, and that covers, ketamine and the unlicensed use of ketamine that's not covered under any existing FDA approvals. And this does not include Spravato, so that's important to know. The only
Yeah,
approved nasal mist for major depressive disorder. So that is exempt because that is approved by the FDA, but other things, ketamine for oral administration, telehealth, where they're trying to help people online and sending drugs to their residences to and watching a video and self-treating themselves, things like that. The warning on the dangers of that and advising regular consumers not to use it. So that's good. So it doesn't touch on some of the existing clinic providers like Numinous or and other ones that are public and non-public, but just for the telehealth industry and self-administration,
yeah.
unregulated uses of ketamine.
What are you guys' thoughts about off labeling and how that'll work? Like, let's say MDMA is approved. A lot of these at home therapies, like I don't see that working. But how do they? Yeah, I think that pretty much answers my question.
I mean, there'll be ways people try to get around this stuff, but I think there needs to be very stringent, hard guardrails put in place to where
Yeah,
this stuff is only used as per how it's supposed to be used coming out of the FDA, at least in the beginning. And then we can kind of, it's malleable. I mean, you can kind of create different use cases from there. But I mean, I'm not a fan of at home ketamine, at home MDMA. Like, I don't think that has any place in what we're trying to do. Like, this is really like
even if
paradigm
you have a
shifting stuff.
psychiatrist, even if you have a psychiatrist online, there's
No, what
no
if I take a
way that's
ketamine
gonna.
dose? What if I take a ketamine dose? I do a session and then I go drive my car 15 minutes later. Not saying I'm going to do that, but there's nothing stopping me.
I know.
There's nothing stopping me from taking the 8 doses of ketamine that they just sent to my house all at once. Like, there's no guardrails. Like, people do stupid things. Like, people are going. You're talking about people that are mentally unstable or mentally
Agreed.
unwell. Like, this needs to be done in a controlled setting as per whatever the guidelines are that it's coming out as, and there's no exceptions.
Yeah.
I expect the FDA to get more stringent on this moving forward, as we start to see things like MDMA, DMT, et cetera, progress through those pipelines and ultimately become drugs.
Yes.
And
Agreed.
we know of some companies out there who deliver ketamine to doors. So you could see a doctor, and then if you get prescribed it for your mental health disorder, and they approve ketamine, you can get this sent to your door. And it has a lot of pull with some people because the prices are way less than clinic. So if you're not covered under insurance, for example, you could get some of these treatments for like 70, 80% less than it would be if you
Oh
went to a
man.
clinic with the higher overhead brick and mortar.
See
So
where
that
this is
it
going.
has a lot of pull with some
Correct.
people, right? Where
I
they're
mean, I
doing
think
it
it's a good
because it's
point.
cost effective for them, whereas the other
I
option
think
is.
But
I think that's
abuse
really
is
I
gonna
think that's a really good point that Ben brings up. Um,
abuse is gonna be through the roof. A prime example of that is opioids. Like that'll be huge
but
abuse.
it's not even abuse. It's more so the legitimacy of like what they're doing. Like, Ben's right, and I mean, I'm a proponent of this. I mean, I think that from a healthcare perspective, like, it shouldn't only be people that can afford it that actually get to leverage the therapies. Like, it should be affordable for anybody that actually needs to use it. So I
I
mean,
agreed.
if you're a depressed individual or you're a traumatized individual and you need or you want to seek out ketamine therapy, there should be means to get you therapy inside a clinic with a
100%.
licensed physician, and you don't have to go the cost effective route of doing it at home. Like, to me, that sounds fucking crazy.
I know.
Like, that is backwards on how the system should actually work.
It
It's
is.
sad that that is the truth. I mean, Ben is 100% spot on there, but that's not the way like we should be tackling mental health. Like bargain shopping for treatments is not something that people should have to be doing.
There's a reason why Maps, when they did the trial, they didn't go with artificial intelligence talk therapy. You go with the
Yeah.
person because they're trained and they have the ability to do that. You don't get that with these at home clinics. Like so, at least when you're in a clinic environment, if something goes wrong, because kind of means a strong disassociative, something goes
Yeah.
wrong, someone's there to help you, right? If you freak out,
Oh
or if
yeah.
you
I've
Right.
seen
like,
people I mean, I've seen people freak out having bad experiences on drugs.
$100%.
It's not fun.
It ain't fun.
no, it's not fun.
It's not fun and it's dangerous. It's very dangerous, especially when you're talking about the drugs that we're talking about from a psychedelic standpoint.
1996, watching Ace Ventura in college. Somebody brought some shrooms in, and whoo, baby, that was quite the journey for about 6, 7 hours for me. That
Yeah.
was pretty friggin' freaky. But
Did you watch the movie twice?
what happened that night? Oh, man, I probably shouldn't get in too much into detail, but, one of the guys actually started laughing, saying, "This is my first drink of the evening." It was 7:30, and the whole freaking room started laughing, and we were just not in a good situation. Poppy's in around 4 in the afternoon, and it was just I think everybody's in bed by 10 o'clock. It was a pretty
Yeah,
intense night.
the first time we all tried I'm not gonna get into it either, but the first time we all tried mushrooms in college, we had, like, the time of our lives for, like, 6 hours, and then we were all hungry, so we got in my bu we were all sober at this point, we thought we were. So we got in my buddy's car and drove to this restaurant, we walked in, and all of us simultaneously were like, "No, no, 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 we can't do this right now." We literally got in the car and went home. Right after walking in, we're like, "Everyone's looking at us, we gotta get the fuck out of here."
Yeah, my
I
one
will
buddy,
never yeah,
threw in some, like, home fries in the, oven, and I was looking at him afterwards, pulled it right out of the oven and was putting it on the kitchen table, peeling fries off of a pan that was probably 400 degrees in temperature. Ow, and then just eating one by
sounds about
one.
sounds about right.
Yeah. Um, Last thing I wanted to touch on is this whole Bitcoin fake out. There was a headline announcement, actually a tweet from Cointelegraph yesterday where it was said the SEC approves iShares Bitcoin spot ETF. Um, End result, Bitcoin ended up going straight to $30,000 in a hurry. But I think there's more to this story than what the headline actually says, Anthony. You maybe want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, it was completely false. Cointelegraph tweeted it out. Bitcoin ripped like a god candle from 28,000 to 30,000 in about 30 seconds. That just goes to show you the people that are waiting for these kind of headlines to get into the market. But come to find out that it was false. After Cointelegraph broke that headline, you had people tweeting BlackRock spot Bitcoin ETF has just been approved. Vanguard spot Bitcoin ETF has just been
Yeah.
approved. Fidelity spot Bitcoin ETF has just been approved. It was all false. Cointelegraph went and edited the retweet. Reportedly, this has been approved. I mean, they're one of the most. I guess they have probably they're probably some of the highest integrity when it comes to reporting in the crypto space. So I mean, this was I don't know what this was, but you got Larry Fink on CNBC and Fox Business News after the bell talking about Bitcoin, and he has the audacity to go on and say crypto is a flight to quality. Meanwhile,
What
this
does that
man
mean? Crypto is a
that
flight
it's
to quality.
that it's somewhere you should be allocating capital, that it's
Yeah.
validated as an investment vehicle and an asset. That from a money management perspective, if Larry Fink deems something as a flight to quality, it is a glowing endorsement as per that asset class. The
Yeah.
fact that he sat there 3 years ago, 5 years ago, and saying this is quicksand. This is just completely just irrelevant. It's smoke and mirrors. It's got no business being in the topic of conversation as an asset class. For him to change his tune to that and go on TV and say it's a flight to quality that BlackRock wants to be invested in and allocating capital towards
Yeah.
just goes to show you that you can't really trust the suits. Like no matter what, they're always talking in their self-interest. They're
Yep.
talking their own book.
Yep.
And I mean, they can't really be trusted. To me, it's just it's funny. I mean, I'm on the right side of the trade, and I've had the opinion that it is the flight to quality for probably the last 6 years, 7 years. So I
Do you
mean,
think that BlackRock and Vanguard's ETF will be
yeah,
approved?
they'll be
With
approved within the next 6 to 9 months.
hmm.
Yeah, and if they
So what happened
do,
with the
if and when
Cointelegraph? They're one of the most reputable sources around. How did they get this
nothing
wrong?
happened, they got lambasted for coming out with that tweet, and just that was that. They didn't really say anything. They didn't have anything to put out there. They just edited the
Right?
tweet and went on their way.
Because they just moved the market, what, like 10, 20
10%,
mil
10,
oh,
10%.
10%? So
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
4
there was 50 billion in value added from that tweet, I'm pretty sure.
Wow. So knowing the amount of wealth that companies like Vanguard and BlackRock control globally, if their Bitcoin ETF is passed, do you think all-time highs for Bitcoin segues after that?
Yeah. I think the all-time highs look tame if if these guys start allocating capital towards Bitcoin. And they're
Nope.
spot ETFs where they actually have to buy. A lot of people are like, well, gold ETFs were terrible for the gold market. But the problem with the gold ETFs is they buy gold on paper. They don't actually buy physical gold
Yeah,
to back the ETFs. The spot Bitcoin ETFs are going to have to hold Bitcoin, and BlackRock has already set up a prime brokerage relationship with Coinbase to act as their custodian for their structured products in the crypto space.
so it's
there was a
Coinbase to buy too.
I like Coinbase. Yeah, I do like Coinbase moving into the future.
it was pretty surreal. I saw a stat that like the amount of money that BlackRock, Vanguard, and who's the third company?
Fidelity,
I'm
State Street.
talk. Yeah, that's who it is.
Yeah,
And the amount of wealth that they control globally is mind-boggling. Like
I mean
into the trillion.
BlackRock's
I
got
didn't.
9 trillion under management.
It is insane the amount of money and power that they have. And as much as Elon Musk is considered the wealthiest man in the world, the
Well, I
influence
mean,
like George Soros and them is nowhere in comparison. Like
no, I mean,
Elon,
who do you think is going to go? Who do you think is going to go rebuild Ukraine
right?
after the fact?
I think more and more
BlackRock.
people are getting educated more and more on what these companies are and the power that they have behind the scenes.
Yeah, but it's not. It's kind of just a function of the way that the capital markets work. I mean, BlackRock is they just happen to be at the intersection of employees and 401ks and large corporations that just allocate on a monthly basis via their paycheck.
Yeah,
They're a sole recipient of that. That's why they've amassed so much wealth and assets under management. That's why if they actually deploy these Bitcoin ETFs, imagine if 1% of the capital on an annualized basis from everyone's 401ks is going into Bitcoin.
I know.
It moves the
I
needle pretty quickly.
very quickly.
Yeah.
Before I
The
let you
crazy
guys go,
the crazy people out there right now are calling for $1 million Bitcoin
yeah,
from like the rooftops.
And you
we've
said
always
that they
got
have to own the underlying. It's not they're not
Spot.
just
Yeah,
owning
yeah.
a paper like
Spot.
the gold.
No, 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 no. Spot, they will have to own physical Bitcoin.
Wow, that's big.
Yeah.
huge. Okay, last thing I want to touch on, we get all these viewers that always talk about this company, that company. It's not investment advice, who we like, who we don't like. But I want to like just bring in some of the companies that we're watching. Not that we're necessarily buying, but we're watching. So, Anthony, I know you have your eyes and continue to have your eyes on Florida company Consortium, which is number 6 in the market, has a good footprint in the Florida market. And more notably, you're watching closely, obviously, it's coming up next month, which is whether or not adult use is included on the ballot, which is dated for November the 8th.
Yeah, I mean, I own it. It's in my portfolio. It's the only cannabis stock I own right now. After I get out of my trades from pre HHS, I'm going to continue to watch it. It's an attractive story in Florida. They are
Yeah,
doing pretty decent on top line. They've got 30 doors in the state. They're free cash flow positive. They've got some debt that's owned by GTI for the most part. And I mean, it's a lottery ticket. I mean, it could easily go to zero, just as easy as I think it could go to a buck. But yeah, it's a stock that I'm watching, and it's a stock that I own, and it's a stock that I'll continue to buy
yeah.
going into the November 8th announcement.
And as we've said before, Ben, everything starts and ends. The cannabis stocks when it comes to MSOs, slow right now, anemic levels, as I said, but still very much the industry is being watched by investors day in and day out. And as you said, what's that next announcement should investors be following that could benefit the sector in the coming weeks? There's the Ohio vote, there's the Florida vote, and then we will listen closely for any feedback from the DEA, right?
DA is supposed to respond within 90 days, which would bring that timeline to early December. We don't think that there's going to be a final decision made there, but they might just update the market, and that's a precursor to a decision that could potentially be made in next spring or next summer.
Yeah,
So that's something to watch. I don't. The speaker thing. I mentioned that it could move a little bit, although I don't think it's going to move that
that's
much.
just
The
noise.
one thing during this consolidation phase that I think could move the market for Florida centric MSOs is the judgment if the Florida Supreme Court rules on the
Agreed.
2024 ballot initiative. I think that has the potential to maybe move Florida centric operators 15-20%, including Consortium, potentially. But that could be short lived because that's November 2024, and then the implementation thereof is in 2025. So right now, consolidation, and everything's reflected in MSOs. I mean, it's like a mirror to the sector. As it goes, or as the components flow into that, that's a reflection of how the components are doing.
Yeah,
And right now, consolidation is the word.
Yeah, I mean, good thing for a couple names in the space. I mean, you've got GTI, Verano, and the Cannabis that are all positioned in Ohio and Florida.
yeah,
Well, I guess GTI's got a small footprint in Florida,
yeah.
but more notably the Cannabis and Verano. They're sitting pretty well positioned in both those markets.
And
Yep.
Ohio is actually going to. There's a ballot in November 2023. Correct?
Coming up, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's November 2nd
November 2nd.
is in person voting in Ohio. That
With that.
that initiative, I'm pretty sure that initiative is going to pass.
Yeah. All right, gents, I got a plane to catch. I'm back up to Toronto for tomorrow morning. We're doing a live stream at SIBO. Verano begins trading on SIBO tomorrow morning, so I'll be with the entire team doing the live stream right after the market opens with Aaron Miles, Chief Investment Officer. Leave any comments below. Let us know if there's any questions you want me to ask Aaron. Be more than happy to ask and reach out. So in the meantime, happy watching the markets for the remainder of this afternoon and of this evening, and we shall check back in with you guys later this week.
Awesome, guys. Talk soon.
Sounds
Have a
good.
safe
Thank
flight,
you.
Chad, up to the 6.
Just came back from there, turn right around, right?
I know. I actually was tempted to come up, but I will.
You want to
I
come?
was. Nah, I will sit this one out. My flight was delayed last week, so I was pissed off.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
I didn't get
Plus the
home from I
traffic.
didn't get home from Miami until like 1:30.
I have never seen construction like that in Toronto, Canada, like I've seen. What a mess. And
Yeah.
that's going to be like that for 5 years, they say downtown.
What?
Anyways, yeah, the building the subway system. That's what people at the Shangri-La were telling me. So
Great hotel. Great burger, by the way, at the bar.
truffle burger and their
That
chicken
should.
sandwich.
That's
Fire.
that's the official TDR lunch spot in Toronto.
Ben, have a good day, okay, brother?
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
All right,
Yep.
see you, Anthony. Hey, everyone. So what'd you think of the interview? Did you like what we asked? Is there any information you want to learn more of? Then leave a comment below and let us know what you think. As usual, share this video with your network, smash that like button, and most importantly, make sure to subscribe to our channel because we would not be here without you. Thanks for watching, everyone.